Hello and welcome to Fresh Face Comics, the comic book podcast. Our lifelong comic book reader guides his friend through the world of comics for the first time. My name is Joey Morgan, the aforementioned lifelong reader. With me, as always, is Jacob Licklider, the aforementioned newbie.
The two of us, who do you think would succumb to a golden apple of Discord?
I don't know. I feel like it depends on how it was presented to us.
I mean, classic Greek mythology for the fairest is written on it.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Who do you think?
I don't know, honestly. That's a great transition for today. We're doing Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Wonder Woman. We're back with Wonder Woman. Finally, we're back with Wonder Woman by George Perez. This is the 4th volume. This is issues 36 through 45, and the second annual. I think it's the shortest volume we've done so far for Wonder Woman. Probably.
Yeah, but maybe not by word count, because some of these issues get long.
Oh yeah. You see, oddly enough, because I've now reread both volumes 4 and 5, and I think 5 was probably the worst offender of that for me. So if you thought 4 was bad, I'm not sure what to tell you, personally. But I mean, I love volume 4. I'm very excited to be back with this.
Yes.
We have a fun couple stories to talk about today.
Fun couple of stories. Some very interesting development. Our first female writer.
Yes. Granted, it is only scripter, but it's good. It's good to finally see. On that, let's get into our non-spoiler section. Jacob, what is the 4th volume of George Perez's Wonder Woman about?
Well, it is essentially 2 stories, and then some
smaller things,
smaller ones, and a final issue that feels like it's trying to be the build-up to his big finale. That
issue does not work for me. I really don't like that one.
It's such a shame, because the last one. Here's the thing: I have been loving this run, but when you have something where it's a couple of stories that are taking a couple arcs, you always run the risk of having one story that you enjoy vastly more than the other.
Because I find that I love both of the main stories.
Really? Because I don't know. I don't know why. I was the second main story. I just couldn't get into it as much.
I was a big fan of that one, especially on reread this time around. I loved both of these personally.
I don't know.
I mean, nothing has really reached the heights of the Cheetah arc that was volume 3.
I mean, that could be also why I didn't engage as much with this, because volume 3 was such a knockout.
It was, which I guess also in one way kind of helps that there was such a distance between this episode and our last Wonder Woman episode. So maybe try to follow up that amazing arc with something else. But I personally really enjoy both of the main stories that feature in this.
I mean, they're good.
Because we didn't talk much about this.
No, we didn't. It's been a while since we last recorded for listeners, because I took a vacation and
you, I think you crammed most of this book into the last few days. So it's been a time, and I think I finished my reread of this like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yes.
So it's we're kind of off timeline wise, but it's okay. We're working through it. But on that note, let's get into some Twitter questions, or starting off on Discord rather. First off, from our friend Andrew, says, "Is there any specific era of Wonder Woman you want to cover in the future?" I mean, I know what I want to have us do in the future, but I'm curious to hear what you mean.
I'd love to do Gail Simone's, because again, Gail Simone being an author that I want to read, obviously. I'm curious about the New 52 stuff. People also say the Greg Rucka stuff is supposed to be really good. That is one I've never read. I've never read the Greg Rucka. There we go. I'd also be curious to also do at least a little bit of William Mesner Loebs, who came right after Perez.
That'd be interesting to do. I was curious to hear what you'd say. I know what I'm probably going to have us do next when we finish this run and move on to something else,
which is closer than we may think, because
we only have 2 volumes of this left, and we're doing the next volume next time. We'll only have 1 more to do after that. So yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. That, and of course, we are also covering Tom King's Wonder Woman currently on Fresh Face One Shots. If you want to check that out, that's been a great time. Then Andrew says, at 4 volumes in, do you think the series is still at a high point, or has the storytelling plateaued? So I think we kind of covered this already. If I can develop on that, though, I think this is still at one of the higher points of this run. Personally, I think I think it starts to slow down in volume 5, but maybe that's me having the hindsight of the whole run. Maybe
because I thought it really started to plateau in the back half of this volume.
I disagree.
Like it didn't go bad. I'd still give like the volume overall like an 8 out of 10, whereas the other 3 have been like 9s and 10s. So 8, still very strong, very good. Just not quite as clicking with me.
Wow, I am genuinely shocked. Wow. Okay. I love volume 4. By the way, for those out there, if you're seeking a copy of volume 4, I'm sorry. Get a digital copy or get the Perez run in the Omnis, because I don't know what happened to this one specific volume in the paperbacks. I don't know why it's just this one. Everything else is fine. Everything else is perfectly fine. But then they're just like, this one just randomly ran out of print, and I don't know why this one specifically.
It's not. I don't know why. I was somehow able to find a cheap copy a while ago.
Yeah, I remember I got them back when they were still properly in print. But yeah, or at least they're also all still in print except for 4. I don't know what's up with that. It's really weird. Anyway, Andrew's last question says, with so many comics under your belt, how ready are you for the Clone Saga?
We don't have enough Marvel comics under our belt is the problem, so not ready at all.
That's true. So yeah, in short, Andrew, we're a long ways away from reading the Clone Saga.
I've also told Joey he's not allowed to do what we did with Nightfall with the Clone Saga. We can't just.
Nope, that's not happening.
we're not ripping that Band-Aid off like that.
Unless we do it all in one episode, and you know how we did sort of like Cliff Notes versions of Nightfall, we just say like a sentence each about every issue.
Okay, that would still be like a 5-hour episode.
That would be. Next over on Discord questions, our friend Mason, who has escaped the hellscape that is Twitter. Mason comes back over to us on Discord. This is actually my first time reading these questions. I haven't looked at these yet. One, if you could cross Wonder Woman over with one sitcom, which would it be? Ooh, man. Okay, I'll say like the Capitella stuff sometimes has an 80s sitcom vibe to it.
Does.
Especially in its very heartfelt moments, which is weird to say. But I don't know. I feel like it fits so many of those personally.
Here's the thing.
I could just start listing off my favorite older sitcoms if you want. I love Family Matters. That's a great show. I don't know. Like it's any of them really.
I have the problem of not watching many sitcoms.
Watch some fucking sitcoms. Have fun with some sitcoms. Who would be the worst person to play Wonder Woman in live action? Mason asks. I feel like we could. I don't know, Amy Schumer. I don't know. Probably her.
It's unfair because Schumer's not really an actress.
She has acted in things. She's had starring roles in things. Anyway,
I'm trying to think of an answer who would be like a good actress but just miscast for the part.
I don't know.
Emily Blunt, good actress.
Yeah, definitely not Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Anyway, his third question: if this isn't a spoiler for a later section, rank the volumes so far. By all means. I'm curious to hear what you think.
I mean, so 3's at the top.
3's wonderful.
3 is fantastic.
It's so good.
Go watch that episode.
Go listen to our episode. It's just us raving, and I also remember we recorded that on your birthday, and it was a great time. I loved that episode.
Then it's probably 3, 2, 1, and then 4 for me.
I'd probably go 3, 1, 4, 2.
That's probably fair. 1 and 2 are also very close. Like
that's I think I like Volume 1 a fair bit more than 2.
I guess that's fair. Also,
I just really love that first Ares arc a lot.
I will say with this fourth volume, we are now getting, by the end of this week, have art by Jill Thompson.
It's true. It's true, and we're officially like in properly in the 90s of
yes, yeah. Finally getting the 90s has been an era that this show has. I don't want to say neglected.
We've neglected it. It's fair to say. It's yeah. It's but yeah. The bulk of this volume is the 90s, and obviously all of the next volume is. So that's nice to finally have some more coverage of that. Mason's last question then says, "What is the one thing you think you could do better than Wonder Woman, if anything?" Oh man. God. I don't know.
I really should have read these questions before sending them to you.
You're the one that sent the screenshot to me and you didn't read them? I have an excuse. I just got off work. I have an excuse here, but wow, okay. I don't know. What could I do better than Wonder Woman? I don't know.
Probably nothing. Probably nothing.
Yeah, nothing really. She's Wonder Woman. I mean, I bet like you're more adept with one eye than she is.
But counterbalanced, she is
by everything else, yeah.
Including being able to see depth.
Yeah. Anyway, on to the actual Twitter questions, which there aren't that many. But first up, our friend Rules Panda at Joey can read this. What is your favorite non-comic depiction of Wonder Woman? Probably Susan Eisenberg's in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited.
I'd probably have to agree, though. Again, I haven't seen many. I mean,
we've watched 4 movies.
And then Justice League.
Yeah, she has other appearances in other Justice League movies as well that we've seen. I mean, I think all the animated Wonder Womans I've seen, they're all good. I do enjoy Gal Gadot mostly. She's okay in the role. Yeah, I don't think there's really been a poorly cast Wonder Woman. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Susan Eisenberg, I mean, yeah, is just the voice I think of when I think Wonder Woman. So probably her. Let's see. And then we have a bit of a thread here from our friend Jamie at Jamie_season7 says, I really need to continue this run. It's been a while since I've read volume 4. It's not great that the next most notable run on Wonder Woman written by a woman was nearly 20 years later. To which our friend English Giraffe at English_Giraffe replies, God, yeah, the amount of women writers on Wonder Woman is staggeringly little. Didn't even think of that. That's just so disappointing. Of course, there's more women writers now, but it shouldn't have taken this long for there to be consistent women writers. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Completely.
I mean, that's also just not just a Wonder Woman problem. It's a comics problem.
Oh, totally.
Like
everyone is failing in this regard still to this day. It's a shame.
Especially, I mean, just take a look at this podcast. This is the first episode where, well, this is the first like proper run that we're reading fully written by not even fully co-written by a woman.
Yeah, and she's off the book by the end of the next volume.
Yeah,
like Perez is back with full scripts next time. But yeah, it's just a bad comics problem, and especially was at the time as well.
Like the only other female writer we've covered significantly was Louise Simonson doing a quarter of Death of Superman.
Yeah. I mean, those issues were great. I think
they were great.
Those are some of our favorite issues of that whole run, which is awesome. But I mean, thankfully at this time we were seeing more female artists, which obviously I've already mentioned, Jill Thompson, which is great.
We get some Colleen Duran here, who is also always amazing, as well as the annual, doing some of the stuff in the annual with so many other artists. Because oh, how many artists are in this one? The late great Ramona Fradon
makes a small appearance here in the artwork, at doing the artwork. Yeah, it's nice to see. Really nice to see. But anyway, I guess that does all of our questions. I guess we're ready to jump into spoilers, aren't we?
Yeah.
Let's get into this. Although, of course, before we go into that, if you want to follow along with the podcast, as always, books that we're covering on this episode and the next one will have Amazon links in the description below. You can go check those out. Again, sorry about Volume 4. Just buy a digital copy. You're better off. Sorry.
I don't know why.
Yeah, or again, the Omnis are out there, and I'm sure they'll do DC Finest collections about with them eventually. And I haven't had a chance to talk about DC Finest yet on the podcast. Oh my fucking god, I'm so excited for DC Finest. Anyway, entirely beside the point. Yeah, go read those, and obviously next time we're covering Volume 5 of Wonder Woman by George Perez. That'll all be there next time on the podcast, and then we're jumping into something else. So
yeah, something else that I will have to guess.
And of course, as always, our socials and everything will be in the description. But sorry, go on. I interrupted you.
Yes, I was saying we have, I have some guesses for what's coming next, but figure that out next time.
Indeed. So we're also recording this the day before it comes out. So if you're listening on the day of, just know I probably worked my ass off tonight.
You very probably would have, because yay for schedules being weird.
Anyway, let's get into this. Spoilers. Consider this your proper spoiler warning. We open this volume now on the Wonder Woman, the second annual of Wonder Woman, annual number 2. It's very similar in structure to the first annual.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, considering. I mean, it's like 52 pages long.
It's a long one. Yeah,
it's a long annual. But mostly good. Like it's all these nice little, essentially just series of vignettes, framed with this, with this idea of, basically we're closing out the Wonder Woman account at Mayor Publishing, because Diana's essentially done being a public figure in that way, which is especially interesting because, like, then the rest of this volume becomes a bit more general superhero heroics.
Although the first big story in particular kind of takes Wonder Woman's role in the world beyond the publicized version of the character, but
into the ambassadorial roots, which I think is great. I also find it fascinating that this run at multiple times, including multiple times in this volume, will just take an issue to stop and reflect. And I found the stopping and reflecting issues often to be some of my favorite moments.
Oh yeah,
I mean, because this annual, drawn by so many people,
so many people. But again, similar structure to the previous annual. It's this framing device of the account being closed out, and within this, everyone sort of tells their own stories within the framing device. The first one here is called Headline. It's about Wonder Woman's first encounters with the Justice League, and it's nice to see, and with Superman in particular, who once again Perez leans into the almost relationship between Diana and Clark. It's interesting to see, and again, Perez handles it well enough, and recognizes that they're not gonna actually do anything with it. But it's interesting to see. Also, for those that were only reading Wonder Woman, it actually tells you a little bit more about the crossover that happened between the two books at the time with Darkseid.
I wasn't expecting a panel of Darkseid,
but he's here.
When I read this, I like that Perez is also kind of winking to the camera that this is almost a blunder and embarrassing for both of these characters.
Oh, totally.
This relationship. It makes me feel like this is the point where John Byrne is no longer writing Superman, so Perez can be like, okay, what was that actually?
Yeah. It's great. But then we go into the second sort of story here. Also, I kind of want to go back and reread this whole annual and do a poor Min counter. I don't know why that particular phrasing is used so much. I forget which character here continually says it, but it's always like, "Oh, poor Min." Always did this, and this, and it's here constantly. I don't know why. It's like the one thing that they could think to write in here. Anyway, but the second story here, Trademark, I'm actually a really big fan of.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Mindy. It's one part Mindy Mayer story. Again,
It's a
fascinating that Perez didn't just drop this character after killing her off.
Right, yeah. She actually I mean, this whole annual is literally about the impact that Mindy has had. It's really cool to see. Yeah, the story is about Vanessa's friends all have these trademarked Wonder Woman bracelets that they're all buying, and they're making a Wonder Woman club. And Vanessa's one friend, Eileen, can't be in the club because she doesn't have the bracelets. She didn't buy them
because she doesn't have the money for it, and it's. I don't know. Perez does a really good job at writing teenage girls. Surprisingly,
well, because it's not just you hear the plot of that, and it's you're thinking oh yeah, Vanessa's gonna help her, obviously, but also it's just there's a little bit of time here where Vanessa also is equally as self-centered as these girls.
Yeah,
she's just well, okay, she doesn't have the bracelet, so whatever, it's fine. And
Vanessa as a character is allowed to be flawed.
It's so weird. I actually, talking about this now, actually having read both volumes 4 and 5 back to back. There's an event right at the start of the second volume we're doing in this block that I have to remember you haven't read yet.
Oh, okay.
It paints the entire Vanessa plot line here in a really different light. Anyway, so Julia talks some sense into her daughter, and so Vanessa puts together her savings and buys a set of bracelets for Eileen. But Eileen is offended by this because it's charity, and Vanessa's like, well, what's fucking wrong with her? Stuck up bitch. Because again, Vanessa's a flawed character. It's great. But Wonder Woman has a talk with Mindy then, and is like, hey, you should not be you shouldn't be capitalizing this so much. And so
corporate trademarks are dumb. Is the conclusion.
I love this little speech here that Wonder Woman has. So children, so obtain a pair of Amazon bracelets. Just send a letter saying why you believe in the principles of equality, love, and fellowship that it represents, and a pair will be mailed to you free of charge. Fucking love that. Yeah, and then Eileen is actually able to get her bracelets and be part of the club. It's nice. It's fun. It's cute. Just a great little story in there. We then have Logo illustrated by Ramona Fradon, which is fantastic to see. I love her style so much. She really does the one page, the first page that opens it, and the 2 at the end, or 1 at the end.
Yeah, because then this one does this one. We nest a story within a story within a story.
It's This is Wonder Woman directed by Christopher Nolan. This is so Wonder Woman walks into this office here and takes a look at again another marketing thing that Mindy Mayer has done. They're making
being drawn by Trina Robbins, who is also now a character.
Yep. And so they're making a Wonder Woman comic to sell, and so we get the story within that story, which is Play Like by Lee Mars, and with art by Trina Robbins, of course. And it's this story about how actually I think this is really cute. There's this there are these 2 kids on Paradise Island, and their brother and sister, and so the one kid, the boy, has a toy that that he's obsessed with, and so I'm trying to think of it. Hang on, wait. Oh, sorry, they have the Imager. That's right. Okay, I was trying to think of this. It's been a while. The Imager is oh my god. The sister then is trying to.
It's 2 kids trying to play together and not working, so they bring the toy to life.
And the toy chases the kids, and they have to stop the toy, and then the kids are brought together again, and then they play with Wonder Woman, and it's cute. It's a really cute little story. I like it. And so Wonder Woman sees it, and she looks at the cover, and the cover is really nice, and that's the end of the story within a story within a story, and it's nice. We then have Banner, which is another Mindy Mayer centric one, which is about the Wonder Woman Foundation. The Princess Diana Foundation.
Becoming the Wonder Woman Foundation.
Yes.
Because Partially because it could be confused with Princess Di in England.
I genuinely love that. And so it becomes the Wonder Woman Foundation, and it's all made to set up the fact that Wonder Woman talks about the Wonder Woman Foundation at Mindy's funeral, so it's sort of like jumping back and forth there. It's really great to see. Again, I love just the impact that Mindy has on this run. She died way back middle of volume 2, and like
she didn't have that many appearances before her death.
Yeah, but I love her character so much, and clearly some other people did too, because she still is one of the best things about this whole run. It's awesome. Let's see. Then we have, oh god, we have Marquis, which, man. Okay, so I remind us that we just came out of a story about a children's comic, and then a story about the death of Mindy Mayer, and now a story about strippers.
Yeah, totally. This thing is all over the place.
Yep. Never let it be said that Perez couldn't appeal to all audiences.
Yeah, and the entire thing is written by Perez, bar the story within the story within the story.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what George Perez was on in 1989, but it certainly was something.
This particular story is also drawn by a woman, which is interesting. Drawn and colored by two women, basically there's a stripper that dresses up like Wonder Woman and does her show as Wonder Woman, and a guy went insane in the crowd and killed her and other people at the strip club, and Wonder Woman gets wind of this and decides it's not okay. And actually importantly, I can't think of the guy's name that was here at the time, the one that was working for Mindy. Can't think of his name. Point being, he was there too, and so he had to basically let the publicists know, and Wonder Woman got involved, and it's great. It's an interesting story. Doesn't quite have the best payoff, I think, like barely any payoff.
Yeah, it's kind of there.
It's even like kind of like set up like it's gonna like go on to do more, and it just doesn't.
It just gets dropped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that's trying to be like, here's what the Wonder Woman name stands for, but like, which is kind of a focus of the annual as a whole.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of that exact topic, we have Legend then, which is about the survivors of the whole Cersei incident back in Volume 2. And the people that now praise Diana because she was able to stop Cersei, and so Diana goes to see them. Well, also importantly, we meet the mother of Julia Capitelis in this.
Yes,
who I love. She's really fun. But yeah, in this story, Diana goes to see the worshippers of her. They love her because she was able to stop Cersei, and so Diana sees this and is like, "Hey, don't worship me," and she destroys their statue of her, and it's fun. It also, like, I forget, is there a payoff to this within this volume, or is that Volume 5?
I think that might be Volume 5.
Probably Volume 5. Okay, basically, there's more on this coming. We're gonna see more about them next volume. So, anyway, let's see. We have Tribute, which is about Steve Trevor's mother. We learn a bit more about her. Basically, we just recap her backstory from
which was
from Challenge of the Gods, which is fine. Nice to see here. We do actually. Also, speaking of crossovers, people exclusive readers of Wonder Woman may have missed. We get what happened to what's his face with the Manhunters.
Pan and the Manhunters.
That's it. Yep.
And all that. Yeah, I mean, it's very much reading this annual by the back half is very much it's a weird thing to do read nowadays because it's in a collected edition, whereas in 1989, and it's not like they didn't have collected editions. They just collected editions were just starting to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you missed an issue, you missed an issue. So doing a recap. So we
regularly just had things that just kept us up on what had happened previously,
or outright reprints.
Yeah, like we also recap the whole Ares plot back from Volume 1 here too. which is nice, but again, also just pretty unnecessary. But it's fine. And then we begin to close out the annual when Diana goes to the office where they're closing out the Mindy Mayer account, and she takes a bunch of the boxes with her, leaves, and that is the end of that issue. Finally, goddamn, it's a long issue.
It is an annual. It's long. It's a lot of
a late '80s annual. It's a long boy. So, yeah. Now we actually get into these stories here. Wonder Woman number 36, which is the start of our first big arc here. This is Changes in the Wind.
This is also the first issue to be scripted by Mindy Newell.
Yes, but still plotted by Perez, of course.
Still plotted by Perez, because this is still Perez's book.
And Chris Marinan is still on the art, which is nice.
It'll be very interesting to see, because you get a taste of it with the final issue of this volume, but to see how Thompson compares to Marinan.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But importantly, we start off the issue getting to see Steve Trevor and Hermes as Rubies, and Hermes is just naked out in the open on a rooftop,
in Massachusetts,
talking to a bird. And Steve is like, "Hey man, put on some fucking clothes," and he gives him his robe, and it's a funny little scene. I like it. We then go over to Paradise Island, where Diana is talking to her mother. Basically,
it's because the bird has a message from Diana. Basically, because that Paradise Island has been setting up preparations for some people from Man's World to actually stay on a diplomatic visit, which is fascinating. I think what Perez and Newell do really well here is begin to set up, for the lack of a better term, the beginnings of the Discord. Because this first story is all about, this first arc is all about Discord and coming together, and also, surprisingly for a Wonder Woman book, not always having the focus right on Wonder Woman.
Definitely, yeah.
Which is kind of fascinating. Also introducing a lot of characters.
Yeah. They're going to introduce on one page, and it's a lot to take in. But we learn of this. The Amazons are preparing for this arrival. Meanwhile, we catch back up with Julia Capitelis at Cambridge. It's lovely to see again. I know you're a big Julia Capitelis fan.
She's having her romance that only gets one page here, but it's a nice little background detail that
at least remind us that it's there. Yeah.
Well, it reminds us that these characters have lives outside of what's on the page.
Which is something that Press has always been fantastic at in this run, is just focusing on everyone's lives. It's just really nice to see. Meanwhile, what's
on Themyscira? Penelope, the Oracle of the Amazons, is beset by bad dreams, and a bit more than bad dreams, because she then goes missing.
Her Amazon sisters try to look for her. They do eventually find her, as she's just kind of laying in a temple then. No, she's still missing. Sorry, it's Penelope then. Penelope has struck her head, and they don't know how it happened. And then Penelope shows up and does not know what happened to Penelope. And so Diana takes her.
Everything is definitely fine.
Yeah. And so Diana takes Penelope away. And meanwhile, once again, we pick up on the lives of Vanessa and her new friend. What's her name? I feel like I should know her name.
I'm not sure. It's Lucy. It's Lucy Spears.
Lucy Spears. That's right.
Bully.
Yes. Who's now actually friends with Vanessa, and it's nice to see. It's genuinely nice. Vanessa then sees her other friend Eileen with her dad over at school, and Eileen begins to act really strangely when Vanessa goes to meet her father. One can assume this is because it's one of those like father is embarrassing type things.
I mean, considering with Eileen being less well off in a financial situation, her dad's a janitor, and Vanessa, while cordial, is we have thought bubbles that she is in fact judging him.
Yeah, very much so. And again, I always love that about Vanessa. Just like she's a great character, but a very flawed character, and Perez doesn't really shy away from either of those things. It's really nice. Yeah, just always great to see. Meanwhile, Diana goes back to Man's World and sees a hole in the side of the apartment of Steve Trevor, and Steve tells her about what happened with him and Hermes, who we learn just kind of got in his Greek god gear and flew away, and then burst a hole in the side of the apartment, and in general, just acting really strangely. But yeah, Diana's like, "Hey, what the fuck is going on with that?" And so she goes to, or she wants to go to talk to Hermes. But meanwhile, we catch back up with Vanessa and Julia, of course. Who Vanessa gets an acceptance letter into Camp Monroe, where she can go with her friend Lucy, and
as a camp counselor, which is it's sweet. It's a thing. Again, it's gonna be important.
It comes up later, and actually just one of the sweetest little plot lines in this whole volume. Yeah. It's really great. But then Diana goes to see Hermes, who's losing his fucking mind.
The implication is that he is losing his ability to travel through chaos to Paradise Island and to Olympus, and is not taking that well. Like
Hermes has always been the prettiest little bitch in this whole run.
You kind of have to feel for the guy, though. Like
I'm not sure I do. I'm not sure I've ever really felt for Hermes, to be honest.
He clearly needs some help. Like, I mean, like he's so petulant, but it's like, well, I can't. This is also kind of feels like Perez having an excuse to write out one of his god characters for an arc where Diana is going to not need to be cut off from other gods.
But the issue ends then with Hermes quoting Shakespeare, and that's the end. It's not a cliffhanger or anything. It's just Hermes quoting Shakespeare.
I mean, it is kind of a cliffhanger. It's very much, it's like, well, mortals can't cross chaos, but you can, and that's going to be a problem because you want to have mortals cross chaos to Themyscira. We're essentially setting up an arc where a bunch of people go to Themyscira.
Yep, which happens now in the very next issue, which is a Wonder Woman number 37. First off, I love the cover of this. I love that it was chosen as the cover of the collection. Just a really great
yes.
But also, I know I told you about this ahead of time, but I'm sure it was great to see anyway. Lois Lane.
Lois Lane
is a big part of this first arc, and I know you're a big Lois Lane fan, so.
I initially did not recognize her on the cover because of the bob.
Yeah. Late 80s Lois Lane.
The hair is not doing her any favors. Nope. But what we have here is an issue.
A cop car, apparently.
This is great. Do we want to cut this?
No, we're not cutting it.
Oh my god,
that is a loud cop car. Jesus. Anyway, so we meet our people that are going to be brought over to Paradise Island. They're going to be the ambassadors from Man's World. It's a lot of people that, let's be honest, you're not going to remember the names of the second the arc is over.
It is. I mean, it's 12 delegates, and where Perez, I don't want to say drops the ball, is that he doesn't make them all unique enough. In a lot of ways.
He does choose a select few, and it gives them, some great stuff to do later on in the arc. But yeah, like I feel like just in general, like I know 12 is realistic for what would actually happen, but I think Perez could have really cut down his cast of characters here and just tightened the story a little bit.
Tightened it, but I mean,
especially because especially these first 2 pages of this issue are just a lot to take in. It's here's the name, here's what they do, here's what they were chosen, and you get that for almost every single character except for Lois.
Because nobody knows who the 12th delegate is going to be.
Yeah, and
the rumors circulate that it's going to be a journalist. I will say, on the terms of who the delegates are, I like what Perez is going for. Is going for international.
Different cultures, different religions, different races, different abilities. There's a blind guy here, which is cool. There's I like the cast of characters that Perez has chosen, but it is just a little bit too much.
The trouble is they don't, very few of them become. I mean, even the ones who get development don't get to be as fully fleshed out characters as I would like.
That's fair.
Which is a problem, but I'm very glad Perez is making the effort to be multinational. Also, bridging the East-West Cold War divide specifically, because this issue would have been, post the Berlin Wall coming down, because we're in December of '89 here, so it's very important, and what I think Perez does well is, and has done well with Wonder Woman, is Wonder Woman is not an American superhero.
But she is the definition of an ambassador.
Yes.
That's exactly what she is as a character.
Especially here in the late '80s, where we have Superman being very much truth, justice in the American way.
Yeah, especially in the post John Byrne stuff.
Yes.
It's nice to have Wonder Woman as this very different hero here in the current lineup of DC characters. But on that, reporters are also harassing Julia Capitellis to find out who the final delegate is, and Julia is just great. I love her, the way she shuts them all down. They're also going after Steve Trevor, who is not as strong as Julia Capitellis, and that's just a fact.
Well, Steve's landlord is pissed about the giant hole.
But yeah, we learned this issue is called Strangers in Paradise as we catch back up with Hermes and Diana.
So
what an emo this guy is.
Okay, so the whole idea is that it's like, right, I can give you the power to bring these delegates to Themyscira, but I cannot go with you. And okay, I like that Hermes is trying. He's trying. He's failing.
But he's still he's fucking kicking and screaming while he does it. But yeah, he gives Diana the power of his caduceus. And she wears that on her belt, I guess.
Yeah,
it's weird. But she then flies away and goes to talk to Superman, who we learned that she actually wants to be the 12th delegate. She wants him to go as Clark Kent to be the 12th delegate, and he's first off, also before they talk about that, they are seeing them together in the sky as Superman and Wonder Woman. There are like some people on the ground that are like cheering them on, which is
to kiss.
It says so much.
I think Perez has something to say about John Byrne's decision.
Just a little bit.
We do need to cover the Byrne Superman run at some point, just so I can have the context of some of the things that I know Byrne has done with Superman in the '80s.
I've never read the whole thing. I've read a few issues of it. But yeah, never the whole thing. But yeah, then Clark and Diana fly away, and Clark offers up an alternative to him being the 12th delegate, and that is of course Lois Lane.
What a Pulitzer of her own, and
is a good friend of Clark Kent's.
I don't know if Lois knows Clark is Superman at this point.
I don't think so at this time.
Because I know that, like,
I believe that's an early '90s thing for post.
I mean, it's got to be close though, right?
Yeah, especially because given that Death of Superman and all that. But
yeah,
I think it's early '90s thing in post Crisis. So Vanessa is talking to Eileen on the phone. They're talking about, I guess, random things. I forget. It's been a while since I've read this. We're moving on.
well, here's the thing. They're talking about school. It's school. Vanessa's being kind of a bad friend, because Vanessa and Lucy got accepted to sleepaway camp. Eileen didn't. And there's some very nice art telling the story of Eileen while talking to Vanessa, taking care of her younger brother. And Eileen even was, you could stay with me over the summer if you wanted to. My dad wouldn't mind. And Vanessa reacts badly to this because it would be staying in smelly old Boston.
It's interesting to see, and we do get more on Vanessa and Eileen's relationship later on, but it's cool to see here. Anyway, then Diana officially announces Lois Lane as the final delegate, and the delegates gather with Diana to travel to Paradise Island. Everyone's watching this on the TV at the time. Hermes is chilling with Steve and Edda.
And Edda, one of the few Edda Candy appearances in this volume until much later on.
Yeah. But everyone's watching this. Diana takes the takes the delegates over to Paris.
Perez also has Diana make this speech about the great ages of humanity.
Yes, I did love that bit. Yeah,
which is great. Not talking about like archaeological ages. It's talking about the ages of the comic book.
Yeah. Totally, definitely.
The first age is the golden age, then the silver age, and of course, Diana then calls the current age the Iron Age, which is so funny because nobody calls this the Iron Age.
Nobody would call it the Iron Age.
I've heard people call it the Dark Age because it's just on the cusp of where everything gets dark and gritty.
Oh yeah. Yeah, which would be more apt than Iron, I suppose. Let's call right now the Iron Age.
I think people still call right now just the Modern Age, but the Modern Age is the Modern Age is whatever age we're in right now.
Yeah. Well, that's literally how they label like all the comic boards and bags that you buy. Like it's these are like modern age sized comic boards. But you wouldn't know anything about that because you don't read single issues, Jacob. Well, you don't buy single issues.
I read. I do them digitally.
You should Jacob. I want you to film your first ever experience going to a comic shop, and I want to see you.
You don't want me on film.
I would love, Jacob. I would love to see your first ever comic shop experience.
I went to a comic shop once with the Boy Scouts.
That doesn't count. That was before you cared. Anyway. On Paradise Island, the Amazons are making their final preparations for the delegates to arrive. Penelope's still doing some shit. she's still being shady, and Penelope is still knocked out. And she gets up then and begins walking away as if nothing has really happened. And it's shady things are happening, and nobody's recognizing it.
We get to see our villain with a mysterious clawed figure looking through a golden apple surrounded by snakes. I did in fact clock who the villain was immediately because I'm the Greek mythology nerd. And there is like exactly one use of golden apples in Greek mythology. It's Eris, goddess of discord. But yeah, very fun because then
you're a fucking nerd, you know that?
He says on his comics podcast.
Anyway, Diana arrives with the delegates and she brings them all here, and everyone begins looking around. Lois takes pictures immediately.
We begin the frame narration that will be until the end of the story.
It's so good. It's so good. Lois Lane's article that she eventually writes, or I guess series of articles she writes, is sort of like the narration that plays over these scenes here. It's really cool.
I wish it was just framed as one article, because having it as a series of articles, like,
but you got to fill up the serialized comics format. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's also something that it feels weird because this first one comes only a couple pages from the end of the issue.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be like an entire piece, and it's not. It's just not. But it is great narration. I really love this framing device. But then Hippolyta and the other Amazons greet the delegates, and they do their little Amazon armband thing, and it's great. And also, I think, is this the first time that Hippolyta has ever spoken English in this?
Maybe
it might be.
It very well might be, because it's. I mean, she might have spoken it to Steve in.
Oh yes, that's right. I remember. Yeah, yep, that definitely happened with Steve.
It's the weird thing about trying to remember that is because they own, like, it's the classic thing of we just indicate a different language as being spoken in brackets.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember because my brain filters out the brackets.
Yeah, you eventually just read so much that they don't exist there. But yeah. Anyway, so we begin. We take all the delegates to the main city area of Paradise Island. It's a gorgeous full page there that I absolutely love. Lois still taking photos everywhere. Delegates looking around and
having discussions on philosophy, botany, religion. Oh boy, the religious discussions are interesting.
There are some choices. But yeah, and we end the issue with again Penelope being a shady bitch, and we get our first full look at our villain for this particular arc, looking through the golden apple. We get a full page of him at the end here. Looks badass. Great design at the end there. As we go into the next issue, Wonder Woman number 38. Great cover. I love this cover in particular.
The covers of this volume are interesting because it's very much like they don't want to give things away. Because
like, spoilers for this, but this cover has nothing to do with it. These are just some snakes.
Yeah, the whole snake thing. I mean, it's
a motif of the golden apple and all that, but it's not. It doesn't happen in this issue.
Yeah,
it's not like making promises about what you're about to see.
It's so clearly it's so clearly we're at the point where we need to sell based on action, but Perez, for very good reason, doesn't fill his issues with always action all the time.
Oh, he never has.
Yeah, and it's something that I think a lot of modern comics can become.
It's good stand to learn from.
Yeah, like we don't need the obligatory action scene.
Yeah.
Every couple of pages.
Yeah. We open on a bit of a weird scene in this issue, though. I say weird scene. It's probably fairly normal, but it is. Basically, they make all the delegates watch the Amazons bathe naked in the water, and
well, the idea is that it's a play on the history of the Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Perez is trying to make it a form of Greek theater, but
I'm not sure that's how it would happen, Perez.
I am pretty sure that is, like, he includes the masks, which is very much a thing of Greek theater. But usually in Greek theater, I think everybody is masked.
But Jacob, you can't have naked women be masked. Come on.
I don't know if Greek theater would have naked women.
I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it.
But yeah, it's. I will say it's a narration heavy scene, but it's a good sequence.
Oh yeah. Again, Penelope being a shady bitch, still being watched at the apple.
Diana notices that, like, okay, this is right, but something's weird about it.
Mhm.
Like, which my one slight criticism is I wish there was a way for Perez to have written that where we didn't need the clarification that the words are right, but the melody's all wrong.
I don't mind that, actually.
I don't. It feels so much like something that you would notice in like a performed medium versus
Yeah, oh yeah,
prose.
because there's not really a way to do it in a comic. So
I
you
mean,
can't
unless you get
step with
really
that.
creative with the lettering, and I completely understand why they wouldn't get creative with the lettering, because at this point there's only like 3 letterers in the business, and
Yeah.
they're
Oh, definitely.
split between 2 companies trying to get all these books lettered by hand still.
What a fucking business. Anyway, we then get the title card, Forbidden Fruit, as Penelope, again being a shady bitch, is preparing the dessert for tonight's dinner. The
It's gonna be
golden apples.
just golden apples.
There's nothing wrong with golden apples. I mean, yeah, they're just golden apples.
There is no mythological implication, Greek
Now,
or
now here's the thing, though. Here's the weird thing about this: is like, does Greek mythology, as we know it, exist in this world? Because then I feel like there would
I
at
mean,
least
it
be
heavily
someone here,
implies
like
someone would have read them.
someone would know, especially
Someone has
like
like yeah, because
the
the myth of the
Amazons.
golden
It makes
apple.
sense. It makes sense the Amazons wouldn't be aware, I guess. I suppose, but like you have 12 regular Man's World delegates here. That there's got to be at least one that recognizes it, right? Like,
One of them has had, because the golden apples. It's connected to the myth of the Trojan War, right?
mhm.
You know, it's Eris, goddess of discord, was pissed that she wasn't invited to a wedding, so it took a golden apple of discord, wrote for the fairest, threw it, and Aphrodite, Athena, and Hera fought. Aphrodite is like, oh, we'll have Paris decide which of us is fairest, and they offer Paris gifts. Paris chooses Aphrodite, and Aphrodite gives, I'll give you the most beautiful woman you can think of, and he thinks of Helen of Troy. Cue Trojan War. That people blame Helen for, even though she is the victim in this situation. Like, someone will have has had to have read that myth.
Yeah.
Also, there's a priest and a rabbi here.
They unfortunately don't walk into a bar.
They don't. They argue quite a bit, but
They do.
You would think one of them would also be like, "Huh, this almost too good to be true apples."
Yeah, even though, like, maybe I don't know, would the priest at least like catch on to the apple thing? Like,
Maybe.
I don't know, like very minor plot hole that we're overthinking.
Yes.
Anyway, so
Well, here's the thing, because you have one of the delegates on the very next page having this thought bubble of, wow, it's almost a garden. It's this must be what it was, the world as it was in the garden. I wonder, are we the serpents? It's like,
which is a great musing, but maybe keep that exact biblical story in mind in a few scenes. Like
the use of an apple to represent discord has gone back through generations and multiple faiths.
Yeah. But whatever. We can overlook it for now. Anyway, so yeah, we get the rabbi. Look, I'm sure it.
It feels a little anti-Semitic.
Little bit, because the rabbi is consistently portrayed as the villain in these delegates here, and it's a little weird.
Here's the thing. I don't know if it actually tracks with like Judaism.
I'm sure. I mean, Perez has always well researched his books.
Well, no, here's the thing. It feels like Perez is supplanting a Christian mindset onto this rabbi character, and that's where the problem's coming.
Yeah. So like I guess the principles aren't wrong, but it's the attitude that they're presented with.
And I'd even argue some of the principles are a bit different because of the way. I'm not an expert on Judaism.
Yeah,
but I know if you take a world religions class from a Christian perspective, which I did in high school, there's a tendency to Christianize Judaism specifically.
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, Islam, but we're both Americans in a post 9/11 America. We don't need to open...
I'm still living pre 9/11, my guy.
You're not.
It's April 7th, Jacob. Come on. That's my worst joke. I'm gonna end the show there. That's
I was having a philosophical point about this whole thing. It's a whole thing, and I don't think it's intentional. Yeah. I think Perez is probably coming from a Christian perspective, and that's why he's doing it.
Yeah. But only so much you could do about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving on. So,
I will say I like that our disabled characters are actually represented really well. Like, disabilities never they never do the "what if we just fixed your disability" thing that a lot of fiction likes.
Their scenes also aren't just filled with people commenting on their disabilities either, which is nice. But again, it's comics, so you're constantly reminded of it, but it's not the focal point of the scene. It's nice.
Which is super progressive for late 89, early 1990.
Probably written in 89, yeah.
Written in 89.
Yeah. But it's great. Hippolyta, we get some great scenes of Hippolyta interacting with some of the delegates, and also just I love a lot of the musings that Perez comments on, like when the Amazons meet up with the different delegates. It's really good stuff. I like it. A great little scene between Lois and Diana here, where we get some more narration from Lois's pieces on her trip to Paradise Island. And then she asks about Diana's relationship with Superman, and Diana kind of turns that back around and is like, "Hey, what about you and Superman?" And she's like, "We're just good friends." And it's like, "Oh, well, same here. We're all friends."
And I will say, there's almost a trick here, because this is the issue where things are going to start switching, and because the whole thing is there's going to be discord among the Amazons and the delegates in a fascinating way. The way Perez writes it, and then the way Marinin draws it, is that there isn't sort of this tension of discord with this exchange. This is this tiny key exchange, partially helped by the narration being from Lois's perspective. That it feels like it feels like quick tension and release. Like these two women understand each other and could be very good friends. And then we have another scene with the rabbi.
We don't need to comment on it. Diana goes to see Penelope then, and as she does so, she opens up this tree. Is it a tree that she goes to? It looks like a tree, or no? Is it? What is it? She walks to this brown structure. It looks like, oh no, I guess it's a mountain. It looks like a mountain, maybe. I don't fucking know. Either way, she opens it up.
Temple where the altar has been moved.
And she goes inside and sees our villain for a brief moment, and then she's consumed by the darkness inside here as she flies toward this light in here. Oh, never mind. She does fight snakes in this.
Yeah, she fights snakes, which are
wood snakes.
Well, here's the thing. It's one snake with multiple heads because Greek mythology. Because the golden apple was in a garden guarded by a multi-headed dragon. We again interesting use of imagery across religions of apples on trees and serpents. And Diana turns into wood briefly, and it is very interesting, where we basically are building to surprise this. Our villain is Eris.
Well, it's Eris, and then she's turned into wood like permanently, and then the Diana that goes to see goes to the dinner with the other delegates is a changed Diana. And yeah, I do love also like we've had like because I commented on the fact that the one cliffhanger wasn't really a cliffhanger with Hermes there. This kind of has that same vibe, but like it carries this really great undercurrent. It's just a normal panel. It's like, oh, you're nothing at all. Let the feast begin. It's Diana looking very happy, talking to the other delegates and all that, and that's where the issue ends.
There's something so weird about like the happiness. It's like, what? Why? Mm-hmm. That's weird.
Yeah, it's
a lot of
really,
it because the art is also priming us for the weirdness of Diana using the term fashionably late, which like that doesn't sound like something Diana would say. That like it's one of those things that sounds wrong, intentionally so, obviously. And then you have this great image of Lois like looking uncertain.
Yeah,
we prime the image of the apples, and it helps us.
And I was gonna say the great thing about collected editions then is that you see the cover of the next issue immediately, and it's Diana with her hand at Lois Lane's throat. So yeah, let's get into that. That's Wonder Woman number 39. Open up in this really cool sort of like almost dreamscape here, where Diana is just floating through the darkness. She sees like a version of Hermes here that like screams at her then. And we create this weird like line between where Diana is drifting in her darkness and Hermes is like dreaming at the same time, it seems. I really love that. I can't quite tell like exactly where the one scene ends with Diana and where the Hermes one begins. It's really cool.
I mean, I think the idea is that they're connected because Hermes in Greek mythology is an example of a psychopomp, a guide through death, a guide to the underworld, and Perez has played that up through the run before this, and that's the idea here, which is also significant to give us a scene that Hermes knows that something is wrong, utterly destroys poor Steve Trevor's car, at least the seatbelt. Like, just, my guy, you can undo that seatbelt easily. You don't have to rip it.
He doesn't know any better. He's a prissy bitch little god. We then get our title page, Poisoned Souls, which opens immediately on Penelope being a shady bitch again. And again, Eris is watching the dinner from his golden apple.
I also find it fascinating that Perez compares Penelope to Phyllis Schlafly, who is a very famous conservative, anti-woman, anti-gay advocate, famously who got a pie in the face on live television. And it's a very interesting use of imagery here, in terms of the discourse of the discord that is going to be created, and just kind of terrifying, honestly.
Yeah, cool.
Because a lot of this early scene is like, are they gonna eat the apples?
And most of them do. Lois has the excuse, I'm on a diet, she says. And as we continue here, it seems like almost everyone has had the apples.
Except Lois and Rovo, who's our blind delegate. They just sort of look like something is weird. Also, the way Diana is looking like a hawk at Lois, and
it's so good. I love the way it's drawn. And we do catch up with Steve and Hermes a little bit during this as well. But when we get back to it, we get another freak out from the rabbi, which, look, again, now it's probably because of the apples, but also, I mean, he's still seen as like the villain here, and it's just it's weird. I'm not a fan.
It's also specifically because the food isn't kosher, which, again, knowing Perez as a writer feels like, okay, knowing Perez as a writer and Diana as a character, Diana probably would have told the people on Paradise Island about specific dietary restrictions.
Yeah. Like, it feels like it's just such a weird oversight in this. And again, for Perez also, who's just it's usually such a I don't want to say I'm trying to think of a better word than sensitive, but I guess a sensitive writer.
He's usually his shortcomings usually aren't this, because Perez does have some shortcomings.
Yeah.
We've talked about that in obviously in previous episodes of this run, as well as in our New Teen Titans episodes. But they are never this apparent. Like, the whole idea is that the delegates are going to start infighting, and the Amazons start to say, "Why don't we conquer man's world?" Like, in the space of a couple of panels, because it's like, oh, okay, this like immediately things go weird. But having the rabbi do it feels weird.
Yeah, it is, and it's not fun. But yeah, needless to say, also the other delegates begin like acting up and getting loud and fighting with each other in the middle of all this. Diana and Hippolyta eventually need to speak up as well and stop the fighting. And basically all hell breaks loose in this dinner here.
Diana's stopping the fighting is far more aggressive than she normally would be. Like it's in two panels. It's she invokes her authority. Hippolyta invokes her authority as a queen and demands everyone to be silent.
Mm-hmm.
And Lois is like, I'm gonna take pictures of this because this is weird. And gets her
so one of the other delegates, this is Lin Ku, who gets some focus here as well.
She was at the Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, she lived through that and has just a general distrust of people after that, which is played up here obviously because everyone's kind of extra aggressive at the moment. And I think there's a really important difference between the way Perez handles Lin Ku's outburst compared to the rabbis.
Yeah.
Because I think Lin Ku's actually works personally.
Yeah, it kind of does. Well, it also is. Hers feels more rooted in truth.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Whereas the rabbis.
I think yeah, it feels more like Perez actually like did more research on her that he did Jewish culture and rabbis for the rabbis characters. It's I don't know. Maybe it's just a poorly researched thing. That's probably all it is. But it still comes across as really weird. Point being, again, whole ass fight here. It's Amazons fighting delegates fighting themselves, Amazons fighting Amazons. It's hell. And escaping this little fight here is Lois, Lin Ku. Who else goes with them?
Rovo.
And is there anyone else with them, or is it just them? I think there's someone else.
There's someone else, but I don't remember his name because
the gray-haired guy here.
Yeah, again,
too many characters.
It's that problem of like I honestly I don't know. I don't know if honestly what might have helped is if we dedicated more than like a scene to each of these characters before they got to Themyscira. Individually.
Yeah. And I think just in general, just like just more issues for this arc in particular would have helped the size of this cast of characters.
That too. The big problem is all 11 of these characters were introduced on a 2-page Talking Heads news sequence.
Yeah.
And
that is just not enough.
That is
it's just not.
It's also one of the sequences is, the way you read it, like it's much easier. Like it's the new sequence can be great for exposition, but it's not great for character introductions for such a large cast. Because it's like, here's another name, here's another name, here's another name, here's another name. Remember them all.
Yeah.
And it's like, all I know are the names and largely vague job descriptions.
Mm-hmm. We then get some more musings on the connection between Diana and Hermes currently. Diana being lost, Hermes kind of in pain because of it. Diana supposedly real Diana, finds the delegates who escaped as they're trying to escape.
She
And
suggests
just
a headline to Lois of Themyscira's summit collapses amidst angry words, cultural exchange, dismal failure. You know, and it's fascinating because Diana, it's not actually a Diana, obviously. It's like, on the record, this was all a farce to just prove that we're miserable.
yeah.
And it's like, Lois is like, you're the only miserable one here. Also, we all know you're not Diana.
Yeah.
Like,
and then Diana attacks all of the delegates, and as she eventually is holding Lois in that death grip from the cover, the fake Diana here begins to literally melt in front of them, which I'm not sure was ever explained as to why this fake Diana melts.
Because she's made out of clay.
Yeah, but why didn't she melt before?
She's a clay construct. I think the idea is like Diana trying to, like the real Diana trying to regain control and consciousness is the implication, but also the cool image of Wonder Woman melting. Okay,
it is cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. So, and then of these 4 delegates, Lin Ku is the only one among them who actually ate an apple.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we have, one person affected by the apples on their own, we can actually get to the bottom of what they do. And it's sort of doing this, it's amplifying like I don't want to say darker impulses, but like insecurities and issues and mistrust in a very specific way. Because again, Perez here plays on a stereotype about Asian women, specifically Chinese women here, of like, there's this whole line of, oh, I get it, Chinese girls are quiet, polite, and self-effacing, right? Which of course is a stereotype that, someone would be very much aware of.
Yeah.
And I think that's why part of why Lin Ku works, whereas the rabbi doesn't. Because there's just an awareness of what it's doing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Meanwhile, the other Amazons begin going after the other delegates who have escaped. The ones who have escaped begin taking horses and make their way over to the altar here, where they begin to enter and descend, and
they find that Doom's doorway is open. It's like, well, we should all probably go in. So they all descend to try to find Diana, and there is, a giant tree of golden apples
with Diana encased within the tree. And that is where the issue ends, bringing us into Wonder Woman number 40. 40? That's it. And oh my god, I love the first page of this in particular. Just that really detailed look of Diana inside the tree there. It's so good.
This arc may have some of Marinin's best artwork.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's really good. He really plays into the weirdness of the mythology that Perez is tapping into. It's really cool. But yeah, so Lois begins trying to plead with Eris, who shows the fighting between the delegates and the Amazons, and these snakes then emerge from Eris's golden apple, and begin plunging themselves into into the tree. And go and attack the other delegates there, Lin Ku, and again the older guy that I'm forgetting the name of right now.
His name is Robert. He
good for Robert.
He recognized, like, wait, shit, I should have recognized the golden apple motif sooner.
God.
Yeah, you should, Perez.
What a beautiful moment. Meanwhile, again, Diana's still lost in the darkness. Hermes still feeling that out. Still, Eris still attacking the delegates.
We get some exposition for those who may not be familiar with the myth of Eris and the Trojan War, as well as adding, the Themyscirans into the Trojan War here. We get that backstory. Kind of a shame it comes in the last issue of the arc.
Yeah.
Especially since we have a lot of focus also here on Lois trying to save people.
It's nice. Yeah, that's just Perez's great character work there.
Yes.
Rovo is thankfully able to escape. He gets on one of the horses and begins riding back. And then Limku and Lois begin getting sucked into, and Robert all begin getting sucked into the tree as this is happening.
Hermes has been trying to get through to Diana from Man's World, and we find Themyscira at war with itself.
Pretty much. Because at this point, I can't even see any of the other delegates there. It's just Amazon versus Amazon. Actually, no, there's like one delegate they call out there. But wow, yeah, it's brutal. Then Rojo begins making his way through there. He's followed by Penelope and other Amazons that are there and are evil now. Hermes does attempt to break through there. And
Hippolyta briefly snaps out of it for like one panel. It's implied that she's like, "Wait, why are we have to kill for what? Killing for paradise? That's not right." All these great little character moments. And what Rovo is doing then is finding Diana's Wonder Woman outfit. And Diana's trying to get a message through to him, and again, there's something blocking them, and the Lois Lane article then invokes the Book of Revelation briefly, making
which
this
is fucking bold. First
it's
off,
very bold, especially since I don't think Greek mythology has an apocalypse. I don't think it has an apocalyptic
I
myth.
wouldn't know. I certainly wouldn't know.
We have, just all it takes is just one person stopping to make it a chain reaction of everybody stopping, to end the discord.
Yeah.
Which I think that's honestly fascinating.
Yeah. And so as the fighting finally stops, Diana is able to begin breaking through the tree that she's stuck in, freeing the other delegates as well. Diana comes face to face with Eris and is able to defeat him and take the rest of the delegates away as Eris begins trying to attack them on the way out. Hippolyta is the one that ends up shooting Diana's lasso to her, and she's able to wrap it around the tree, burning it and the golden apples, and sending Eris falling into the abyss and he explodes, I guess, down there because there's an explosion that comes from below. I guess that's Eris. And then Diana and the rest of the delegates all leave with Hippolyta, and we end on some really nice little narration from Lois's article, and that is where the issue ends. And as such, the first of our two big arcs.
Yes.
Taking us into the back half of the book with Wonder Woman number 41. I love this cover so much. Holy shit. Wow. That is just
it's
gorgeous.
A great cover. It's a great cover. This is another one of those I don't want to call it a pausing issue. It's an issue that
it is a little bit. It's very much like the it's like that. I forget what issue it was. There's another one that was basically just like a series of like letters throughout it, and this is sort of like that. But it does it does kickstart the second arc.
And oddly enough, this is a very mature issue. Like,
oh yeah, I really love this one.
Like,
this is
in a way that I should have expected from Perez, like, to understand how to do something like this. Because at the heart, this issue is all about Julia and Vanessa and their mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
It's Vanessa's at camp, Julia's in Turkey on an archaeological dig, and honestly, this might be my favorite issue of the collection because of just how well it handles these characters.
It just might be, yeah. It's
which might be why, because this is also technically the lead into the next story. Technically, it might be why the second story didn't hit as much for me.
That is so interesting. I still really like the second story.
I thought it was good. I was just like, oh, it's a bit of a come down after a great story about Discord, the goddess of Discord, and then this great character piece. And then
I keep wanting to find a way to make a joke that you keep saying Discord, and we're using Discord at the moment. I can't find the thread, so I'm just gonna say I have the makings of a joke, but not an actual joke. I got nothing.
You have discordant threads.
Yes, there we go. That's the one right there. Anyway, so Julia's on this dig, and she gets a letter, her first letter from her daughter Vanessa, who's at camp and telling her all about it. Her first couple days there. There's a cute boy there. It's typical, like, yeah, hey, this is my first day at camp. I'm with these are the kids here. Lucy's there as well, of course. And that's all the first letter is. It's a very simple first letter.
We also get I really like how well Julia's like archaeological team is characterized as well. Like they're minor characters and they're essentially here just to fill page space. But they're like so fun if you have like the one who's like, why are we still here? We're not finding anything. And then the other one and Julia are like, well, you've discovered archaeology, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. There's some really great side characters there.
Yes. We have more of have more of Vanessa's letter. And here's where we get the real sort of mature topics of, Vanessa being a young teenager, sort of on the cusp of puberty. And she's really insecure about getting her first period, which I think is fascinating, the way Perez writes it. And I think it probably helps that Manuel is doing the scripting. Like,
Perez, true.
Great writer. Perez is a dude.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think that Perez wanting to tackle these topics, is enough. But also, it's Newell's scripts that like are really able to give it the nuance that it deserves.
Now Perez, I believe, was a parent. I know he was married, so he might have had kids, which is why I think that Julie as a mother kind of shines, as a parent. Could also be Newell. I don't know much about Mindy Newell. But it's this interesting sort of, again, this very interesting idea, as well as something that, happens during the issue. Because after this, we get a recap of the last arc, as well as the delegates rebuilding Themyscira, creating the, which is very nice. I'm very glad we got that. Especially, because I do think the way the arc, that last arc ended with those last kind of pages worked really well, but I would also want to follow up exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it too, rather than like, going through like every single step of like seeing how they rebuilt everything. It's just give us the Cliff Notes version, and it works. I think this is good.
But with Vanessa, like because after that, then the rest of the issue, like the rest of the letters, the letter to Vanessa, or a couple of letters, this is bridging some time, obviously, in a couple of weeks. As Vanessa becomes, more anxious, more weird, like sort of those weird emotions of having a crush and not knowing what to do with that. As a person. And I think what's important is really important for both Perez and Newell to do is throughout all of this, there isn't any shame put on Vanessa.
No. In fact, we see that especially with her relationship with Lucy here too, which is really nice to see too, especially from a character that Perez first introduces like a school bully, pretty much. There's this nice little exchange. Another one of like Vanessa's insecurities as she is on the cusp of puberty is like not having big breasts, and like it's something that her and Lucy actually like talk about and like comfort each other about, and it's really nice to see and handled super well. And again, probably greatly because of Mindy Newell.
Yeah, honestly, also just kind of surprising, because I like. I guess is the big comic book that's aimed at girls, but like, if we're gonna be honest, not really. It's still a comic book. Comics are traditionally aimed at a young boy audience. Like, that's just in marketing. So to do this, I think is important, and it creates some very interesting understanding, I'd imagine, in young readers.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's handled really well, and I love it. Yeah.
And also, Vanessa, this letter also gives us an unfiltered Vanessa who's able to reflect on, some of her character flaws in a way. Like there's this great line, that, after Lucy and Vanessa have their talk, in the letter, it's, they race back to their bunks. She beat me as usual, but I almost caught her next time. Like little tiny little bits like that are really important for creating a character like this, and doing this. We also have a messenger pigeon arriving,
presumably from Wonder Woman, which is great. But then we get the final letter from Vanessa here, which is that Vanessa finally gets her period, and we, in addition to the letter, we also see the actual scene play out between her and Lucy, and she's just ecstatic about it and just genuinely like just happy, and it's I don't know, there's something just really nice about seeing Vanessa just act this way. I don't know, I guess I'm finally like struggling to find the words to describe just how nice this scene is to see, but it's
because it's because, let's be honest, I've never seen in media anything like this portrayed in such a positive light.
Yeah,
it's usually portrayed
same here, really,
for horror, shall we say, which is a bit problematic. As well as not talked. It's one of the failings of the United States education system in terms of just general sex ed, that, like, as guys, we don't understand we aren't taught to understand the menstrual cycle. So to have Perez and Newell writing something where not only understanding it, but using it just where everyone involved is happy about it, because then, Julia's reaction to it.
I love that, just that panel afterwards where just Julia takes off her glasses and she's crying, and one of the other archaeologists there is like, hey, just, you good? She's like, no, it's fine. Just,
it's just that I miss Vanessa. Sometimes being a working mother stinks.
Yeah. And it's so fucking good. Goddamn, I love that. Oh man. Anyway, messenger pigeon.
You can see why Julia is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, she's pretty fucking great.
Messenger pigeon. We have a letter from Diana, who is struggling on her own as well. Struggling after the last arc. Kind of an emotional arc for Diana. Having to deal with the fact that, let's be honest, Diana really wasn't the one to save the day. Like, it isn't so much stated that, but that's clearly like the mindset of like Diana kind of, I don't want to say she failed, but she was captured. she had to go to allow other people, and so she clearly wants to surround herself with her friends and her found family in man's world, and she can't, because Hermes is Hermes, who has lost his godly powers, isn't there. Steve's not there. Everybody's gone. We have another bit with the with Steve's landlord at this point too,
who's just such a funny character in the middle of all this. Diana has just a fun little interaction with him, and then writes her letter and sends it off to Julia.
And basically asks, can I come and do some archaeology with you? And Julia's like, of course she can. She's gonna write a letter. But then something scares the messenger pigeon. Diana, is back in Boston reading "Stranger in a Strange Land," which I have to imagine is at least partially just for the title significance of Diana feeling like a stranger in a strange land.
Yeah. That's often how book references like that in other media works. Is just.
Perez and Newell actually quote the opening of Stranger in a Strange Land, at least. Just the opening, not the part where it devolves into a weird sex cult.
I did not know that's what it was about.
When we're done with this, I'm going to send you a video summarizing Stranger in a Strange Land, because I sadly have not read it. I'm curious to, but Heinlein as an author who I've read some short stories from, and I don't love. Anyway,
on to Wonder Woman number 42. Silver Swan is back, as the cover promises. We haven't seen her in a long time. The second volume, I believe.
Second volume wasn't in the third, because the third was.
We're getting a lot of sequels to volume 2 things, aren't we? Between the Mindy Mayer stuff, and it's just interesting. Anyway, so Silver Swan is here. Okay, I think also your enjoyment of this might rely on also how well you remember the Silver Swan stuff from volume 2, because having been a while, I can't imagine you remember everything.
I don't remember everything, because it has been a while, and especially with 80s comics, which are great, but 80s comics can be 80s comics and earlier can be very wordy, and 80s comics can be very wordy, but also being very heavy on plot. Whereas, which is, again, it's fascinating, because now we've read stuff from basically every decade, from the 60s onwards, and there's this, the word as the word count stays the same, the plot increases. It means there's more to remember. 60s comics, ton of words, but not as much to remember.
I can't wait to get back to some 60s comics with you. It's gonna be fun. Anyway,
I know when it's coming.
It's coming, yeah. We have the Silver Wings of Terror, as Diana comes face to face with the Silver Swan once again, like pretty much right off the bat. They although it's not actually Wonder Woman,
it's a robot.
It's a robot. As Silver Swan is being tested for her eventual rematch with Wonder Woman by Assface that I can't remember the name of right now. Hank Henry, yes, Hank.
And he sucks. His name is Hank Cobb, and I mean that.
And again, important topic that Perez is commenting on once again is abusive man, and
I will say where the story does succeed is portraying what an abusive relationship effect it can have on the victim, as without going into some almost cliche stereotypes about it. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Because Valerie, the Silver Swan, is a victim of abuse.
She is punched in the first 5 pages by Hank. Perez doesn't shy away from exactly what it is, and it's uncomfortable in all the ways that it's supposed to be. So Meanwhile, Diana is talking to Steve. Steve Trevor is at a bar with Hermes, and Hermes and his mouth start a fight with some guys at the bar, and Steve has to get involved.
Also, it turns out Steve and Etta Candy have had some sort of undisclosed relationship issues. Which I imagine is why he's spending his time at a bar with Hermes.
Yep. We're gonna be getting into Steve's relationship troubles next time.
Yes. But yeah, so what's interesting is that I love the dialogue of this moment of Hermes basically calling to Steve, and Hermes being described as being hornswoggled.
Yes,
hornswoggled. An actual word.
Yep.
Used in this comic from 1990.
Yep. My God! Also, the fit Hermes is in right now. His all orange with his chains, like
it is.
It's a look.
I believe the term is disaster bisexual.
Yeah, definitely.
I believe that's the technical term.
Yeah,
because Hermes is kind of flirting with everybody.
Oh yeah.
Here's the problem. I've made the mistake of watching season 2 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer a little bit recently.
Oh, man, that entire show has been my to watch forever.
Yeah.
So
I know I've seen some of it a long time ago, but it's the thing where James Marsters got big, and I don't know why.
James Marsters is James Marsters. I mean, come on.
I don't know why, but my inner dialogue for Hermes in this half of the issues of the volume specifically is just James Marsters.
See, I've also had some James Marsters dealings recently, but not quite disaster bisexual James Marsters.
No, just disaster.
Unless there's something about Harry Dresden that I just don't know.
Okay, look, we can talk about fandom speculation on the sexuality of Harry Blackstone.
I already got John Constantine vibes a fair few times throughout that book, so it's possible.
Look, I'll just say that Jim Butcher is kind of a coward.
Okay. Damn. Ouch. Anyway. Oh man, I don't remember this scene at all. Who is this woman? What is happening here? It's one page.
This is Mrs. Sullivan, the Capitalis's who's watching the Capitalis's home.
Oh, okay.
It's the implication that they're trying to find Julia, and Silver Swan is going out after Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And okay. Anyway, so Diana then wakes up in the middle of the night and is attacked by some assassins, which
ninja assassins.
Yeah, with ninja assassins with swords and machine guns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I guess they wanted to be prepared in case they had to bring a gun to a sword fight or a sword to a gunfight.
And why not use both at that point?
Yes.
So Diana fights these ninja machine gun assassins, and she wins, of course, because she's Diana. And she finds an injured man in the distance
named Solomon Buckman or Buchman. I'm not sure. Buckman is
Buckman. And so Mr. Buckman tells her about they want these records that she can't let them something ... He probably dies. Oh no, he doesn't die actually. Damn.
He just passes out because other things are happening.
But then Diana hears some more noises from inside a nearby house and goes to investigate that and finds, I forget her name. What's her name?
They don't name her here. It's Silver Swan's friend.
It's come on.
By the end of this,
come on. I was getting those vibes even back in Volume 2. Come on.
Yeah, they're there. They're
Come
there.
on. They're totally there.
I don't know if Perez.
I think Perez knew.
Does he know?
I think he knows.
Because, like, I mean,
if not, Mindy Newell is adding a lot of subtext, though.
Subtext, yeah. And Chris Marinin, by the end, like in the final panel that they share, is like,
yeah,
that's the vibe we're having.
Totally,
definitely just friends, really close gal pal.
Yep. Anyway, so Silver Swan then threatens the Mr. Buckman, who is still there, I guess. Diana and other friend
Maxine.
Again. Who is it?
Maxine.
Okay, and yeah, they find Silver Swan. And Silver Swan screeches, and the house blows up, I guess, and that is where the issue ends. Going into Wonder Woman number 43, picking up exactly where we leave off. The Silver Swan attack in the Armageddon aria, I guess. The fight between Wonder Woman and Silver Swan is where we open up here, as Hank is getting updates on it all as it all happens while he eats a bucket of chicken bucket. But okay, no, sorry, that actually sounds like a normal phrase when I say it out loud. No, it's spelled CHIK NBUKIT.
Here's the thing. I think that's our first indication that it truly is the 90s.
Yeah,
because that spelling is a 90s spelling.
Oh yeah.
Like, just especially for bucket. Like chicken, maybe. I can see that being marketed in the 70s and 80s. But bucket. Like that. I know.
Anyway. So Dan is able to toss Silver Swan into the water below and get her out, which seems to incapacitate Silver Swan for the time being. Maxine then runs after her lesbian girlfriend and helps Diana get her to safety, as Maxine tells Diana all about Hank and what a bad guy he is,
as well as how how Diana has been used to make Silver Swan Valerie jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has to know what they're doing, right? Someone.
Yep, definitely. If not, this is quite possibly the greatest accident in comics history.
Yes. I will say, one thing I did like at this point is I really started to notice how kind Perez and Newell were to Valerie as the Silver Swan. Like,
definitely
trying to help. Like, they don't. It's like Valerie, makes all the wrong decisions because she's, the victim in this situation. But they're very kind to her. Like it's very much trying to make this pair reconcile, and Diana's able to do that almost immediately after being attacked by helicopters. Because of course,
normal things.
And while they come in, Silver Swan wakes up and actually. We find out that we hint that something else has been done to Valerie in between appearances.
Yeah.
Which gets revealed in the last issue of the arc, not the last issue of the collection, because the last issue of the collection is
not part of the arc.
It's a thing.
It is its own thing.
I have I have thoughts on it, and I'm.
It's a mess. Come on.
It's an exposition.
Anyway, Silver Swan and Diana fight off these helicopters, and Hank and this guy named Mr. Choi are screaming about it the whole time. Also, we get an update on not an update. Diana takes Mr. Buckman to Paradise Island to get him healed by the Amazons, which is a nice little touch. I really like that.
Then bringing everybody back to Massachusetts, where we have our first Etta Candy appearance, where
Yeah, and she is not happy.
And here's where we have one of the few things that I don't think aged great. Again, the whole, this Etta's jealousy of Diana, which I get it, but that feels very
I feel like
1980s.
I don't mind the jealousy plotline itself, but I do think that in the same way that Perez, like,
the dialogue. It's the dialogue.
It was the dialogue, yeah. But here's what I do think is that, like, in the same way that Perez occasionally cuts back to like Juliet and Vanessa in the middle of completely unrelated Wonder Woman plot lines. I feel like Perez should have given some of that same care to Steve and Etta's relationship.
Yeah, because we haven't had that.
They've been kind of completely absent, and the only times we've seen Steve randomly are whenever he's hanging out with Hermes.
And that was also they were also kind of absent in portions of Volume 3, if I recall correctly. So it's been a while for Etta specifically, because Steve was there for a lot of Volume 3, but Etta not as much. It's, and I think I hope this you mentioned that this gets expanded on next time.
Yeah, you're going to see more about it next time.
Because, again, maybe not having that is also why I didn't gel with this sequence a little bit in particular, just because it's like, we're missing some context.
And
the way it's presented here doesn't feel like setup for expansion. It just feels like I've missed something.
I mean, it does get expanded upon. You'll see more of it, yeah. But anyway, time for some Silver Swan backstory. Oh man, we've been watching a lot of 60s Star Trek lately, haven't we? That the first thing I thought of on reread was that fucking 60s Star Trek trope where the worst thing that can possibly happen to a woman is that she is ugly.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, look, I do think there's actually a decent plot line here in this, but it's the first thing that I thought of, probably just because of Star Trek. It's actually fine here. The idea is that Hank found this horribly disfigured woman and decided to take her in and decided to quote unquote help her and make her pretty and give her powers, and it's not bad, I don't think. It's just it can come out across a little tropey maybe.
Kind of even outdated for the early 90s in a way. Because I mean, it feels about 20 years out of date in a lot of ways.
Just a little bit.
But the Silver Swan is supposed to be an ugly duckling villain, right? Like that's
that's kind of the point. So
but again, I mean, it helps that Perez and Newell give her character too. It's
Newell on scripts that I think really
is
able to actually add to the actual female experience that Perez is trying to explore here. So that's all it is, and it's not bad really.
It's not like 60s Star Trek that had the problem of it would do this and also not characterize its female its female characters at all. So it's backstory. There's this idea that Buckman wanted to experiment on her further, which is I even clocked it here kind of a lie, because it's like, oh look, Buckman's standing over Hank
with a wrench.
The abusive asshole with a wrench.
Yeah. And and so Silver Swan retaliated and he died and all that. And so after this backstory, then we get this great little conversation between Maxine, Diana, and Valerie. And as this is all happening, some of Hank's guys, these toting machine guns, come in, take Silver Swan away, threaten Maxine and Etta, and that is where the issue ends, taking us into the final issue of the arc, Wonder Woman number 44.
It's such a quick ending to 43. It's like, okay, we need a
and we also time jump a little bit because we open on.
I think Perez. Something must. My guess is something must have been happening at DC to make Perez want to move to something else quicker.
Either that, or it could also have something to do with the next issue.
Yeah.
In that Perez was realizing that he had to do something very soon, and so maybe he had to cut this short. I don't know. That is kind of what it feels like, but I do think it's done in such a way that I don't think the story itself suffers.
It suffers. I'd argue it suffers slightly.
Not enough to affect my opinion of it, really.
Maybe. I wonder if it was because we're getting close to an issue 50, so I don't know if there's something in volume 5 with issue 50.
So issue 50 is a little longer, but it is still like it's still part of a story arc. Like it's not
okay. So it's
not a standalone story or anything. No.
Interesting. Like weird. It's weird. I don't because it feels like we're rushing to a conclusion, in a very odd way. Especially because we do a time jump. This is
Diana's in a cage, and the story is called Caged, and it's funny, I guess. But Diana's in a cage, and she is being threatened by Mr. Choi, and Hank has Silver Swan back wrapped around his finger again, and Maxine is also in a cage, and with Etta, and so they're all going to work to get out of there, obviously. Silver Swan.
This is an issue that has a lot of dialogue.
A lot. Well, early on, it kind of dies out.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a couple of pages where there's a lot of white space.
Yeah. The most threatening thing in an old comic is a page that is more white than color.
Yes,
it's just you don't even need to see the amount of speech bubbles. Just when you turn that page and you're just faced with that white immediately, just you're in trouble. It's bad. Yeah.
I mean, again, I will say, still not as bad as say Stan Lee dialogue. Now that I've experienced Stan Lee dialogue,
no. I will say I have been reading some just Stan Lee in my free time, and I found I think I found a way mentally to work through it while still reading every single thing that's on the page. I can't quite describe the process. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I know I'm reading a lot more. I realize I'm reading Stan Lee faster than I used to, I should say.
You might be skimming is what's happening.
I don't know. I know for a fact I'm reading every single speech bubble. Every single one. And I don't know what the process is that's helping me get through it.
You might be literally skipping words.
There's no way. I know I'm absorbing every bit of information that's there. I'm not forgetting what's happening.
You're forgetting that Stan Lee has the problem of using so many words that they don't need to be there.
Maybe that I don't know. It's I just know I'm getting better at it, and I'm proud of myself. Entirely beside the point. Anyway, Silver Swan is put back into her little mummy wrappings and is put back into this chamber to give her powers. And Diana's able to break free then using. Oh yeah. There's this great bit where Etta chooses to punch the electrified gate, and that's able to help Diana to escape somehow. It's a weird moment, but it's cool to actually see Etta choose to help Diana in that way. It's nice.
In my notes, I called this issue "We've suddenly switched to a late 1980s techno thriller."
A little bit.
It's a very different, in a lot of ways, it's a very different vibe from where the last issues of this arc have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have Silver Swan being experimented on, Diana escaping. This whole idea of that, hey, there was a power surge, so we need to turn down the system, which is when Diana shows up and is about to be shot when she grabs this man and to get her stuff back.
She gets her tiara and the lasso back and goes after and wraps up Mr. Choi and rescues Maxine and Etta, and then goes after Silver Swan and Hank, and Silver Swan and the chamber sort of explodes that Silver Swan is in, and Hank is sort of left like wandering through this complex in the dark, and Diana's able to go after him. Then it seems like Silver Swan has gone missing, but then she reappears and is able to go after Hank, and has that great little moment where she's finally able to see what Hank has done to her over all this time, and also has her girlfriend pleading with her off to the side, which certainly helps. We get the actual like backstory of what happened between Hank and Buckman.
The initial lie was that it turns out, surprise, she didn't kill Buckman. It was actually an accident that Hank then manipulated and used because he's an abusive asshole. Mm-hmm. It's also very much that these experiments could be killing her. So she's going to stop, but Diana steps in and is like, let actual justice prevail. And Maxine is like, and also come home with me, please.
Forever. And then there is okay. We can joke about the lesbian subtext all day. First off, it's definitely there, but also what a gorgeous last panel.
Yes.
I love that. Totally there. They had to know what they were doing. There's no fucking way. If nothing else, Chris Marinen's a fucking hero here. But yeah, and then we close out. We catch up with Buckman, who's healed on Paradise Island, and
this is Buckman's son.
Yes,
there are two Buckmans.
There are two Buckmans. The Buckman we met first. We met the son first, and then we met his father. But anyway, and that is where the issue ends. And then
we have to talk about issue 45.
We finished this collection on Wonder Woman number 45, The Legacy of Pandora's Box.
Yeah,
I get Perez wanted to set up some shit, but wow, oh man.
So let's just start with some of the positives that I think we can agree on. The art's beautiful.
Jill fucking Thompson.
Jill Thompson does like the bulk of it, and then some of it's also done by Cynthia Martin, and also some of it's done by Colleen Duran.
Mm-hmm.
All fantastic artists.
Yes.
And I get what Perez is going for. He's going for, something mythologically important is happening. That
I'll also say this like barely gets touched upon at all in Volume 5.
I believe this is set up.
Oh yeah, set up for the final volume, definitely.
I'm pretty sure this is set up for War of the Gods.
Yeah, but this is like, oh man, this is just
in Volume 6. We're gonna have to talk about the utter clusterfuck that is that I know about, because I know about how the Perez run. Like, I don't know what happens in the ending, but I know what happened in editorial.
Yeah,
during the ending, and how Perez kind of got screwed over.
Yeah, that's an adventure. But this, oh my god, this.
So this woman called Harmonia is visiting the Fates.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get, a retelling of the story of Prometheus and the story of Pandora's Box. Two myths that are connected. And I will say, for retellings of those particular myths, they're gorgeously done.
Mm-hmm.
The art's great.
What we kind of have here actually is what reminds me structurally, at least, of the very first issue of the Perez run, where it's retelling of Greek myths, and it's about the history of these characters, and Diana barely shows up. I can't even quite explain why I love the first issue and I don't love this.
Well, it's because the first issue by the end has built to its point.
Yeah,
this issue hasn't.
Yeah,
this issue is
a
retelling
side step.
And I mean, I think what sinks it is that we end on the moment that the issue is going to end on the moment of what's going to happen is the death of woman and the death of Earth. Like, that's like, as a point, that's, first off, that's kind of a trope in and of itself, of someone proclaiming this character is going to die. But also,
We have more story to tell.
We have more story to tell, and the big problem being, because Diana doesn't appear, it's not even an ironic. Diana knows she's going to die and take the world with her.
It's just this is just something that none of our major players in this run are even aware of.
Yeah, it's turning to the audience.
There isn't even just like a random fucking like Amazon there that like could vaguely be aware of Diana, that could hear this and be like, oh shit, that might have something to do with Diana.
No,
like,
it's a character called Harmonia.
Yeah, and it just
who is a character. I don't think she's appeared before this point.
No, oh god, no, not at all.
Which doesn't help. It's like, oh, new character who we don't know and don't get the time to know in this.
Yeah.
I will say again, the rendering of the myth of Prometheus stealing fire from the gods, and then Pandora being created as retaliation, and Pandora's box to happen is good, and it's trying to parallel with Diana being created from clay, and Pandora is drawn in a similar way to Hippolyta and Diana intentionally, but that's about it. This is a myth retelling,
and you're not really going to get much out of it if you're reading this for Wonder Woman, which I imagine you're 4 volumes deep into George Perez's Wonder Woman because you like Wonder Woman. So yeah, I don't know what this issue's going to do for you, but otherwise, I think it's a great collection. And
great collection.
Yeah, it's a really great collection. I think we're still at one of the high points of the run for me personally.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I say this is the least. It's still a great collection. Like, it had this last issue kind of brought it down slightly, and the last arc, I preferred the first arc to the second one.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't really see what you don't love about the second arc.
I don't know. It just didn't hit me. It's not bad. It's great. It's Scott Perez's touch all over it. It just didn't work as well for me. And
okay,
it's
all right.
It's maybe I'll enjoy it more on a reread. Maybe. But I will say, again, this volume has some of contenders for some of the best moments of the Perez run.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
issue
40. I mean, issue 40 in and of itself, or 41.
Yeah,
41. It's just perfect on its own. Yeah,
it shows a great understanding of how to write characters. How to write long-form narrative with these characters. Having Lois Lane is always fun to have.
We love Lois Lane.
And a Lois Lane where, honestly, we didn't really talk about it. Even though Superman was here,
it's just Lois separated from Superman. It's just her on her own.
Perez and Newell clearly understand, let's say lesser writers have that struggle with Superman comics have a tendency to make everybody super connected to Superman, and Lois is super connected to Superman, but she's also a person and a journalist in her own right.
She's a person on her own, and it's great. It's great to see that tapped into here. So
that was fantastic.
That is that. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm very excited to move on to volume 5 with you, and that'll be our second to last Perez volume. And much like how we finished off Action Comics last time, we just kind of have one more to go, and we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah, it'll happen.
But I think finishing the Perez run will feel more momentous than finishing the Morrison Action run, because the Perez run is a run we started way back in our first year of this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. It was a while ago, but I'm excited that we're getting close to the end. So, I am curious. Do you have Volume 5 on you by any chance?
Like
near you at the moment?
It's on my bookshelf.
Okay. All right. No, right. I'll talk to you about it outside of the episode. That's okay. Fine. All right. So otherwise, thank you also so much for listening. Thanks for listening. It's been awesome since we've done a Wonder Woman episode. But if you like our Wonder Woman discussions, we do Fresh Faced One Shots, where we've been talking about the current Wonder Woman run month to month by Tom King, which has been fantastic. Go check those out. Other Fresh Faced One Shots,
very different from the Perez run, but
very different. But still so good. check out that other fresh face one shots. I can speak. Is we do Superman by Joshua Williamson and The Brave and the Bold by Various. We're a little late on the issue that just came out last month, so that'll be out in the very near future. In addition to Action Comics, the newest issue that comes out this coming
I want to
Tuesday.
say the number is 1064.
I lose track of those numbers. I just pick up the new ones. I don't care. But yeah, it's the start of the big crossover event starting this month. House of Brainiac, which is running through June. I learned. It's a 3-month crossover event. So we have
3 months. I want to say
covered.
7 parts, or maybe 8 parts.
Well, yeah, 7 parts because it's 3 action, 3 Superman, and a one shot. Plus, there are 6 tie-ins with Power Girl and Green Lantern.
However, we are not covering the tie-ins because
I would love for you to read the current Adams Green Lantern run, but that's fine.
That's a run that's a run that we can clearly put in the future of Fresh Face Comics proper.
That is true. That is true. Dude, there's so much Green Lantern stuff I want you to do though. It'll be so long. Anyway,
I will say I'm very excited to get back to Green Lantern in the future.
Yeah, it'll be fun. But what else do you have going on? Promote some things, Jacob.
Yeah. So my blog, I've actually done quite a few book reviews since the last episode. A couple of Doctor Who's. I've been reviewing the Sun Eater Saga, which is a modern sci-fi thing. That's been fantastic. I have also been reviewing on it Star Trek the original series, which at the point of this I am 3 episodes from the end of the original series. I just did the Cloudminders.
Yes, as did I. On Blood Studios, we have the video versions with me and my brother. We just did the Cloudminders, and next week we have the Savage Curtain.
I made the mistake of looking at the writer credit who's coming up next week.
Dude, I think I don't know how low I want to set the bar for you. I think it's my least favorite episode of Star Trek I've ever watched.
So that's already a very low bar because
there's some bad Star Trek out there. Yeah, definitely. It just might be. You probably won't agree. We tend to not agree on Star Trek, apparently.
We agree on very bad Star Trek, though.
We do.
Really bad.
But you also hated The Way to Eden, and I think you just hate fun. Is that it, Jacob? Do you hate fun?
I don't hate fun. I just don't like certain things. Read my Star Trek reviews, people.
Read the Star Trek reviews. Watch the Star Trek reviews for me, and otherwise,
we need people commenting on Joey's videos that aren't just mad at the occasional curse. Apparently.
Oh my god, that was the funniest thing. But also, wasn't that such a good bit at the post episode thoughts?
Yes.
Because dude, it just keeps fucking happening. Those episode titles, those rat bastards. I don't know. I was happy with that. I thought that was funny, so of course I kept it in. But yeah, check that out. Other things on Blood Donut Studios. Breaking Brian is finally coming back. Me and Brian recorded the episode on Better Call Saul season 5 just recently. It'll be out later this month, and then we only have 1 video left to do. So that's really cool. Also, we keep joking and threatening to do like a drunk commentary of Slip and Jimmy, which I think would be like the worst thing we've ever done, and it might happen. And that's not a promotion for anything. It might not happen, but it might happen as well.
As your friend, I'm of split minds on this because I have seen Drunk Brian.
And are you aware of what Slip and Jimmy is?
It's that animated weird.
It looks like Big Mouth. Yeah. It's like 4 episodes, I think. So we keep joking about it, and every time we joke about it, I think it becomes more and more real. So anyway, there's that, and then also R2PD is finally back. We released our 3rd episode finally last month, explaining the weird technical problems we've had recently, and we're finally going to be back with another episode and at the beginning of May, where we're talking about the Bad Batch season 3, which will finally be over then. And then I think we're also going to do an episode on Tales of the Jedi after that, Tales of the Empire after that. So that'll be cool. And check all that out. And I think that finally does it.
Another Star Wars book review is coming in the nearest future.
Oh, that's true. I have you reading Star Wars books. So
yes.
read those reviews as well. Otherwise, thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to leave a comment or a rating, subscribe wherever you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Blood Donut Studios, whatever the fuck you're watching, listening to us on. Be nice. So otherwise, thank you all so much for listening. Until next time, this has been Joey Morgan,
Jacob Licklider.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.